Oh, but yeah, kind of going back to maybe academic view of it, does or did school actually prepare us for life? So, like, we'll say, I don't know, if we look at first maybe from a work and career perspective, did school prepare you, Aaron, for your working career now?
I would say no, because I was advised in careers to go into catering and hotel management. Okay, that'd be like Basil Fawlty or something, all these hours. I mean, but
Couldn't picture you in that role, Aaron, to be fair.
no, so I ended up in web design and printing and all that graphic design stuff. But no, I careers wise, no. But that's not to say it didn't prepare me in other ways. But from a work career point of view, not really. From my point of view, anyway.
Yeah, but the one thing I would say, Aaron, and this ironically, this kind of came up on the work podcast when we talked about work and stuff like that. You were always interested in art.
Yeah.
And you went into an artistic field. So from a career perspective, I would say your career or your work is most like a straight line. So in other words, not that I would have predicted that you would have been in graphic design, but I would have probably predicted that you would have been in something creative art or artistic when you were in school. I certainly wouldn't have predicted that Shawnee would be in banking, as a for instance.
Well, no one did. Fair play, God.
Certainly confirmed none of my maths teachers would have predicted that. Oh, but I would say from a career perspective, no, school didn't really prepare me. The fact that I didn't really know what I wanted to do, I kind of knew more what I didn't want to do, and that's what I ended up doing, ironically. But from a career perspective, no, a work perspective, I didn't think that school kind of contributed. What about yourself, Niall?
Yeah, I think in some ways, yes, and in some ways, no, quite frankly. And again, I don't know how things have kind of changed or that. I suppose one that kind of stick, and again, I go back to the kind of Greece example, and ironically, so as Greece, it's a kind of a team environment. You have to kind of work together. But I suppose, certainly when it comes to work and all of that type of stuff, being able to work as part of a team pretty much in most roles nowadays, I would say is pretty damn important. And I think sometimes, certainly my experience at school is it doesn't necessarily always do that. It's quite focused on your kind of academic side of things, where stuff like Greece, etc., obviously kind of allows you to do that almost by accident. The other thing I would say is, I do think from any teacher's point of view or career guidance, to try and advise a 15 or a 16 or a 17-year-old what they want to do from a career point of view, I think is nigh on impossible. And to be honest with you, I actually think from the 14 or 15 or 16-year-old's perspective, to make a decision as to what they might want to do is almost impossible. To me, it seems like, it's almost a kind of a nonsense question, because until you have those experiences, you're really not going to know with the kind of best will in the world. And again, Aisling so she is an art teacher, and she's gone back to college to also become a career guidance counselor. But it's very interesting how that role has changed, and there's so much more to it nowadays. So yes, I would say in some ways yes, and in some ways no. But again, I suppose then, school can only do a certain amount in that respect as far as I'm concerned. And again, if you consider that, these are 14, 15, 16-year-old people, it's a very, very difficult task in the first instance.
Rory?
Sure. Yeah, I suppose from the context that the work environment obviously is changing massively, and I always say, like, take for argument's sake the kids that are starting with us this year, the 12 and 13-year-olds. Like, a lot of them are going to end up doing jobs that probably don't even currently exist.
Yeah.
Like, you take like an app developer, right? Now, I know that's around for a number of years, but the people that are doing that when they went to school, that job didn't even exist. So I kind of would agree with Niall that it's probably not going to prepare you for any specific career. Like, you're hoping kids will get problem solving skills and all the rest of it. Hopefully what it does well is it kind of prepares kids for dealing with people, and for I can't remember which one he said, but for working with people. I always find it very funny when the kids go into transition year, and they sometimes have to do group work, right? And they suddenly discover that there's one or two people in the group not carrying their weight, or not, or all of that human interaction. And they find it very difficult, because the first, second, and third year, you're kind of doing your own thing. But that's the first insight into the reality of work-life balance, and that sort of thing goes on. It probably, and I don't know if this is a positive or negative, it probably does help in that you have to do stuff that you don't want to do. And now sometimes that stuff might be particularly helpful, or they may not see value in it. But when you get a job, that's something that you may have to do at times. And look, finally, for me, it's kind of all about resilience and relationships. Like, you're hoping by the time the kids get through school, they'll have developed a little bit of resilience in themselves. You know, they'll be able to take a little bit of a knock, and their ability to work with people and foster positive relationships will be something that'll be stronger. And then at the end of the day, you go into whatever career, and it's almost like you have to start from zero, and you have to learn whatever you need to know for that career. That's kind of my 2 pence anyway.
Yeah, and it's interesting kind of even to hear you say that, because obviously, what did we say, 30 years ago since we were in school? The
Yeah.
focus would have been almost exclusively on the academic side of it at that point. So it's really interesting. And so I agree totally. I think when it comes to work, I think it's those types of factors that actually, in many respects, are actually more important than the kind of academic. Now, again, it depends a little bit into the career that you go into, etc., etc., you know?
Yeah, you're trying to develop the problem solving, hopefully, in the kids. It's something that always strikes me. Like, just go back to the idea of the musical. Every single year we do a musical, and there's not a year that I'm not shocked by some kid that's after taking a lead part. You know, someone, and I'm going, what, that kid that's taking a lead part in the show? Some really quiet kid that you'd never expected. So I suppose my point being, it's very hard to predict, as Niall was touching on earlier, what a 14 or 15-year-old is going to do in the future, because they might be shy at a particular point. You know, things develop at different rates for different people.
Yeah, I agree totally, Rory. I think that's why transition year is so important as well, isn't it? I mean, we all did it, and like, that was brilliant, wasn't it? Like you said, it gave you more confidence and team building, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, fine.
But I can totally relate to that, and I kind of feel that I was one of those kids, Rory, that would never have put myself forward for a kind of a kind of role that was one of the lead roles, I suppose. But that I found a new confidence in myself that I never had before, and that's like that's kind of stood to me.
It's
I think.
transformative for a kid at
Yeah,
times.
for sure. Yeah, 100%.